Good morning. I would like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we are gathered and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to acknowledge any sorry business that may be happening in our community. My name is Councillor Tony Hall. Welcome to the City Lifestyle Committee meeting of the 6th of February 2024. I declare this meeting open at 10:08. I would like to advise attendees in the room that this meeting is being webcast and audio recorded. We have no absent councillors, but we do have two councillors joining us via webcast. We have Councillor Murphy and we have Deputy Mayor Kerensky. Declarations of conflict of interest. I now refer to declarations of conflicts of interest. Do any councillors here attending wish to declare a conflict of interest against any of today's reports on the agenda? There being none, I will now refer to the reports on today's agenda. We'll begin with item 5.1, Sports and Community Infrastructure 2023 to 2024 Quarterly Report, 1st of October, 31st December 2023. This is a public report and it will be the report of the Director of Community and Lifestyle, Miss Annette Turner. The presenting Managing Officer, Sports and Community Planning Program Leader, Noel Hudson, will speak on the report. Thank you.
It's Jason.
Oh, sorry. Okay, so, joined by Noel Hudson, we have Sports and Community Infrastructure Delivery Program Leader, Jason Chin, and Jason will speak on the report. Thank you.
Through the Chair, good morning all. I'm pleased to be presenting the quarterly report for Sports and Community Infrastructure for the second quarter of 23-24. We had another busy quarter leading up to December with progress on several key projects. Design progressed on several projects including the Beanley Aquatic Centre, the Flagstone Community Centre and the McKinnon Park Sports Park Clubhouse. Works progressed on the Year 2 Sports Facilities Program projects, and during the quarter Council submitted 11 grant applications for works in this program. Construction commenced on the Wilbur Street Youth Centre, the Chris Green Park Clubhouse, the Everleigh AFL Clubhouse and the Jimboomba Park Rugby League Clubhouse. And works were completed for a number of projects including the Cornubius Park Sports Centre roof replacement, the Eagleby Aquatic Centre rectification works and the splash pad at the Logan North Aquatic Centre. I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you very much. Through the Chair. Thank you so much. I'm really excited that Middle Green progress is happening. I think the roof is getting done next month and then the toilets will follow. Everleigh Clubhouse has started, which is a wonderful, which will be a wonderful addition when it's fully completed for the community. You said 11 grant applications. Do we know how many have been successful so far?
We find out in March, April, the outcome.
Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much, Mr Chair. Through you. This is just outside the scope of the report a little bit. Logan Metro lost their clubhouse to fire, to arson a couple of weeks ago. And I just wanted to say thank you to you and your team on a quick turnaround on getting things done up there. I know the sports, or I call it still SLF, have been doing magic work up there, but working with the state government on actually getting them up and running in time for a season with temporary items as well as planning for long term has been really important. And I just wanted to say thank you. I can see from this list that you're extraordinarily busy, but the fact that you made time to come up to a meeting last week and knock some stuff over was really great. Thank you.
Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the Chair. It's not within the scope of this report, but it's just a question in relation to the sports facilities program. The Rochedale Tigers raised with me that their scoreboard is not working. Is that considered a council asset or is it considered a club asset?
Through the Chair, we'll have to take that on notice.
Yeah.
I believe it would be a council asset and we can get back to you on that
I
item.
appreciate that because their season starts in a couple of months and they don't have a scoreboard and it's something that they need.
Any more questions, councillors? There being none, we have a motion on the board that the report titled Sports and Community Infrastructure 2023-2024 Quarterly Report, 1st of October to 31st of December 2023, be noted. I'll move the motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lane? Can I have a show of hands who is in support? Councillor Herrmeyer? Yeah, that has been carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, we'll move on to item 5.2, City of Logan Facility Accessibility Assessment. Now, this is a public report, but does contain a confidential attachment. Do any councillors wish to move into confidential to discuss this report? There being none, I have Jason Chin. Will you be speaking on this one again? Yes? Okay, you're free to speak on your report.
Through the Chair, in August last year, Council resolved that a report be prepared outlining the scope for an accessibility audit for facilities across Council. This report provides a proposed scope for a citywide accessibility audit of Council's sports and community facilities. I'll hand over to my colleague Noelle Hudson to provide details.
Through the Chair, hope you can hear me okay. Apologies. To develop the response to Council's request, Council engaged a suitably qualified industry consultant to advise us on the scope, timeframe and breakdown of how to approach this task. We have, as part of that, we have excluded Council administration, corporate buildings and storage sheds and focused on sports and community infrastructure facilities as part of this exercise. There has been a 3-tiered accessibility audit options with differing levels of accessibility outlined and different methodologies contained within the report. Happy to take any questions.
I believe we have a question from Councillor Lane.
Thanks very much through you, Mr. Chair. I note that this report was actually generated as a result of some funding that was allocated to a facility in Greenbank. And it was the Divisional Councillor's desire to actually get disability accessibility for that facility. And it has happened, which is absolutely wonderful. And we all said, what about me? And I just want to commend the group that actually did the audit. They went into my seniors hall and asked a lot of questions, did assessments, and they were very nice about it. They listened to what their needs were and they jotted down pretty much everything that they had concerns about. So I just want to say to the group that actually did this assessment, thank you very much. If you can pass that along, it is great. I know that making all facilities fully accessible is a lot of money, but I think we're on the right track towards it, and I want to say thanks for the report.
Any further questions, councillors? There being none, I'd also like to say I think this report will have a good result. It'll give council a bit of a roadmap as to where we are sitting in terms of our accessibility. I'm sure a lot of the buildings that we do have in Logan predate accessibility standards, so it will be interesting to see how many come up. Just for the public, are we allowed to say how many buildings are going to be reviewed?
Through the Chair, Councillor, we have identified approximately 170 facilities. A facility might include multiple buildings, so it can range from a very small facility that has one building to a very large one that has multiple buildings.
And my understanding is that new buildings that are already compliant will not be included within the scope of this?
Yes, Councillor, all new buildings are at code or at higher.
Awesome. Okay, with there being no further questions, Councillor Herrmeyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I understand that information regarding 170 facilities is contained within the confidential report. What's also confidential, my understanding, is the cost of this recommendation. If we can release the scope of how many facilities are covered by this audit, can we tell the public how much this audit is expected to cost?
Through the chair, for benefit of commercial advantage for council, the preference is not to advise the amount of the cost because that gives potential tenderers for the contract an opportunity to know the value of the contract.
Any further questions, councillors? There being none, we have a motion on the board behind me. I'll just read it out, that the council endorse an accessibility audit to be undertaken in 2 stages and a cost sample of rectification items identified in the accessibility audit, which is to be funded by the Community Infrastructure Strategy Program-based budget. Number 2, that council endorse the internal and external access to all identified facilities accessible audit to be undertaken as outlined in option 2 of the report titled City of Logan Facility Accessibility Assessment. Number 3, that a report be prepared to a future City Lifestyle Committee meeting outlining the result of the accessibility audit, including prioritisation of rectification works as detailed in the report titled City of Logan Facility Accessibility Assessment. And number 4, that at the discretion of the Director of Community and Lifestyle, the confidential attachment as attached to the report titled City of Logan Facility Accessibility Assessment be placed onto the public record. It's quite a mouthful. I'm just making sure that our councillors home can hear the recommendation. I'm going to move this. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Bradley has seconded. Can I have a show of hands in support? That has been carried unanimously. Okay, councillors, does anyone have any general business for the Sports and Community Infrastructure Manager? Mayor Power.
I was just thinking about the new Ben Lee pool and whether or not we've got any suggestions to actually name it after a particular swimmer. I know Natalie's busy fiddling away with her phone there, but we've got a world champion, Molly Callahan, who I met at the Sports Awards, who is an absolute incredible person. And I would think that with the pool coming to Ben Lee, we could duplicate what we've done at Springwood with the Jodie Henry pool and have the Molly Callahan pool at Ben Lee, because she's already a world champion, and I think we need to acknowledge our heroes of the city before someone else does. Thank you.
Through the chair, we will. We haven't looked at naming of the facility yet, but we will take that advice on board and follow it up.
Okay, does any of the other Councillor Lane?
Thank you very much, through you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question about our local sporting groups and what's happening for the coming summer. Down at Gould Adams Park, we've seen a bit of a change in that Logan City Cricket Association has dissolved as a group. And my understanding is we're looking at a temporary lease for clubs for spillover games on that site until September. Do you know if other groups, I know that cricket's only played all day and it's like watching paint dry, but whatever. I'm just wondering whether or not other groups are able to apply to use that facility, given that it's not technically a designated cricket ground anymore.
Through the chair, I'm sorry, we'll have to take that one notice. I'm not sure, but we'll follow up for you.
No problem. And the other thing I'd like to say is a lot of my groups are gearing up for the new season, and I know that Logan Roos is looking forward to hearing about the future plans for their clubhouse. So if you can give me offline an expected date for a visit with them so that we can do the walkthrough, that'd be magic.
Through the chair, we'll do. We have some plans together that we can discuss with you.
Councillors, Councillor Wilcox.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to acknowledge, I'm pretty sure Molly would love to hear that. I will get a message to Tony, her mum, through the day to let her know that Mr. Mayor has asked for that to happen. Thank you.
Councillors, any further questions? If there's no further questions for the sports and community infrastructure managers, you may leave, guys. If get out while you still can. Okay. In my haste, I failed to mention that sitting next to me is the Director of Community and Lifestyle, the Acting Director of the Community and Lifestyle, Miss Annette Turner. Do any of the councillors have any general business? Councillor Herrmann.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I speak today on a local news item in Division 8. I just heard yesterday from the president of one of our local sports clubs, Park Ridge Panthers, about a new opportunity that could enable one of the iconic parks of Division 8, Hubner Park, to expand. Now, I've heard that the property next to Hubner Park has been listed for sale, which presents an opportunity for Hubner Park to expand if council purchases that property next door. The timeline of Hubner Park is that it's been around since Division 8 was a very rural residential area, but despite all the growth going on, despite the largest warehousing development in the Southern Hemisphere being built down the road and huge residential growth, Hubner Park has stayed constant and it's served as a great piece of social infrastructure. What I would like to see and what the community in Division 8 would like to see is council invest to expand Hubner Park so it can service all of that new growth happening in our region. There's some urgency to this because when properties are bought in Division 8, what we see quite often with government policy is that the property is subdivided and it's cut up, and that reduces the ability for that property to be used for sports use because it is so small now and that property no longer exists. We don't want to see that happen with this great opportunity right next door to Hubner Park. Acquiring this property from a desktop analysis makes economic sense. The rate revenue that's been generated from the largest warehousing development in the Southern Hemisphere is immense, and some of that ongoing revenue could be reinvested into social infrastructure in the region. There's also a social need due to all of the population growth that needs to have access to appropriate facilities. Expanding an existing facility accomplishes that goal at a lower cost than buying a whole new piece of land. So, to take advantage of this opportunity and not let it get out of council's grasp, I've requested that the director of the Parks Department authors a memo that details how can Division 8 and the community advocate for funding this proposal. How can we figure out the appropriate process and the funding options for council to purchase this land next to Hubner Park and expand it? I wanted to ask the director, when are we expecting to get that memo that details that information back?
Through the chair, thank you, councillor, for your suggestion, and I note the urgency of the issue. I'll take that question on notice and get back to you today through the Parks Manager, and we'll give you a timeline.
Thank you.
Councillor Bradley, I saw your hand was up. Was there a question? Yep.
Thank you. I was just going to ask, is that appropriate in caretaker? But that, whilst I support what you're trying to achieve, I'm not sure if it is appropriate. But anyway, I'll leave that.
I believe we have another question, another general business item from Councillor Murphy, who has her hand up at the moment.
Thank you. Through the chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. I'd like to address a general business item to the Venues and Events Manager and the Director with regards to pools. Councillors, I'm pleased to report since the reopening of the Eagleby Pool, we have seen record patronage of 2,800 visits since the opening on December 2nd. Our Eagleby Pool reopening pool party, which was held in partnership with our contract partners Belgravia, Wesley Mission and Nightlight, was a huge success, with hundreds of locals turning out to celebrate the reopening and cooling off. Eagleby Lake locals have well and truly supported this pool's reopening and the operators. Belgravia have done a fantastic job since opening and managing the facility. Over the course of the summer, I and other councillors have received varied feedback from our community regarding council's pools. Councillors, I have very much been on the ground in our community, and I know personally you guys have too. I have fielded many questions from locals about extended hours, making entry fees cheaper, improving facilities, activations, events and free days, and of course programming and services. There's been a significant increase in interest from our community about council's pools, and I believe it is timely that we review how we can best deliver these services in our community. Given the success of Belgravia's operation at Eagleby Aquatic Centre, I would also be prudent for council to access how we manage the pools and the best practice operating model. I believe my motion today, which you should see shortly, builds on the already happenings in council and consultation with councillors have done with their own communities over the past few months. I thank Councillor Jacob Herrmeyer for moving the first motion and have been given advice from the officers to address the extra details from the community. So Councillor Hall, there should be a motion on the board, and this has been given from advice from the Venues and Event Manager and the Director, Brad White. That in lieu of a previous council resolution dated the 18th of October 2023, minute number 94/2023, which provided that council consider future operations relating to the pool entry price as part of the 2024-25 budget process, a report be presented to the future City Lifestyle Committee meeting, providing an overall review of council's aquatic facilities, including but not limited to a view of the pool's general entry fees, opening hours, seasons, and management and operating models. I'd like to move that if that's possible.
Okay.
I wanted to ask
Through the chair. Question on notice. Obviously, I don't have that financial number on hand. We have a fixed report sort of framework. That being said, you may recall this body of work is already being done in the background and was going to be presented to council later this year. Happy to progress that earlier, considering it does relate to a big portion of an element that you raised, Councillor Herrmeyer, the $2 pool initiative. So we can certainly pull this report together that considers elements like entry fees, seasons, opening hours, opportunities for council to propose initiatives, be they pricing initiatives, special Australia Day initiatives, what have you. Bring that back to council with a whole of the network sort of review for you to consider and implement well before summer season 24-5. So we have that capacity. The work was being done in the background. We can just put a bit of a rush on it.
Thank you for the answer. So what we've heard is that there's an unknown cost to the increased scope of an overall review. An unknown cost, so we're signing a blank cheque. And on top of that, we've heard from the expert, from the council officer whose team is actually doing this work, that the work's already getting done. So, so I think that this general business motion wouldn't be appropriate to approve today. I don't understand the urgency. Really, I think the community expects councillors to be out in their community right now and give some grace to the next council to approve blank cheques like this. I think also this is separate and distinct from the $2 pool idea. We previously agreed that the $2 pool idea is an interesting idea and we should talk about it in the budget process. That's what's agreed to. That's what's already happening. I don't see the urgency or reason for approving this increased scope, increased review at an unknown cost at a very strange time to be raising a general business item like this so close to an election. So I would like to thank Councillor Murphy for the general business motion. Where I stand on it is that I don't think that it's a wise idea to approve it at this time. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Bannon.
Thank you, through Chair. Jacob touched on most of it. I just think this would come up through budget. I don't think it's the right time to do it either.
Councillor Bradley.
Thank you, through the chair. I was, two things. I was a bit curious about what that resolution was on the 18th of October. Unfortunately, I don't have that in my memory bank of what was resolved on that day. Is there any idea what that is?
Councillor Hiremaier, you'd like to read that out?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have it right in front of me, Councillor Bradley, just on the minutes. So there was two clauses in that minute item dated the 18th of October 2023, and I'll read it out word for word. Quote, number 1, that council does not proceed with implementing a $2 pool entry for the period 1st of December 2023 to the 29th of February 2024 at its 6 public aquatic facilities. And number 2, that council considers future options relating to pool entry pricing as part of the 2024-2025 budget process. That was carried 10 votes to 3. So my understanding of that motion is that we didn't agree to do it last summer, but we'll talk about it in the budget process.
Yeah. Thank you for that clarification. The other reason I put my hand up, I've had conversations already about the pool in Underwood, because a number of residents raised with me about the opening hours, and my understanding this was already happening behind the scenes anyway. So I don't feel comfortable just before an election putting my hand up for this. The work's happening, so I would much rather let it take its course.
Councillor Russell.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Probably not necessary for me to speak. I share the sentiment of what's on the board, but I definitely share the sentiment of what's bouncing around the room. I know that Brad, yourself and I have had many conversations about all of these topics, and I feel really confident that yourself and your team are already working on this body of work. Thank you.
Councillor Avon.
Thank you, Councillor. Brad, I understood from that motion that Councillor Hiremaier just read out that part of it, which was not articulated in the motion but was included in the sentiment of the room, was that you would do this work for that service enhancement that's coming to budget. Is that your understanding?
Thank you for the question. Through the chair, clarification. So, council is expecting a body of work to demonstrate the information required to make that decision through budget process?
Yes, and that included pool, like some of the things that are listed explicitly here, like pool opening hours and availability of staff and all that, to be able to accommodate the $2 pool option through a budget process. So will this information, my question is, will we get this information that Councillor Murphy is asking for explicitly through the budget service enhancement if we don't vote for this today?
Through the chair, no. So the body of work required, I guess, the supplementary information to facilitate that. A reasonable portion of that information was provided in that initial report with some initial costings and some background and some implications. But the broader scope regarding seasons, opening hours, would not be available in the current budget process.
Because my understanding, my recollection, Councillor Bradley alluded that she recalled something similar, but please correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Bradley, was that that extra work was part of the service enhancement, because I won't be able to make a decision on a service enhancement for $2 pools without understanding all that extra information anyway, which is where we got to in this room. We got to the point where we're like, it's a good idea in principle, we don't understand the full implications of it, let's consider that in the context of the budget. So if anything, Councillor Murphy, and with your indulgence, rather than a whole separate report being created to a City Lifestyle Committee meeting, I'd be more comfortable adding the extra information to the service enhancement, because I know a service enhancement report is much simpler than a full-blown memo with background and everything that comes to a committee meeting, so that we could make that decision in that context of the budget with all the information available to a future council. Because I just don't think you'll have at least 2-3 new councillors in here from memory. They would want, like, if I was new, I would want all of that information to be able to make a fully informed decision on $2 pools, rather than having part of the information and then just bouncing it back another year, which no one wants.
Thank you. Through the chair, There is, probably going back to Councillor Heremeyer's initial request, the information provided regarding the financial impact of a $2 pool in our current framework, and yes, the world will slightly change between then and now regarding attendances. There's sufficient information for Council to consider the financial impact of implementing $2 pools in the proposed time period, so 1 December through to February 29 next year, leap year. There's sufficient information for Council to consider that. What there isn't is the body of work that sits to the side, which is what do our pools look like, when do they open, how much do they cost, is that one more than that one, should it be, how do we come to that conclusion? So that's a significant body of work that is required for Council to be informed to make a future decision. That scale is probably unlikely to be able to be delivered in time to be assessed as part of the budget process.
Okay, but are you doing that body of work?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. So if you're already doing that body of work, how are you going to report it to us?
Good question. Briefing report.
Okay, so because that motion is essentially asking for that to come to a committee report, and so you're just saying that you're already doing all that work, that motion is redundant?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, my understanding is Councillor Murphy would like to say something. Councillor Murphy?
Thank you through the chair. This motion was never meant to delay any process with regards to Jacob's motion that he had put forward, but to extend the information so we could have a deeper dive into the whole workings of council pools assets, not only for the entry fee, but from my community, especially the extended hours, the activation, and those special events as well, and to give us that information to have available for us to make a better choice and have an educated decision when it comes to the budget process. So it wasn't to take away from Councillor Heremeyer at all, it was to extend to, and I certainly have had the guidance with regards to this, not only from Mr. Page, but also from our director as well. Thank you.
Mr. Page, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you. And through yourself, I'll probably direct it to Councillor Heremeyer, sorry, if you don't mind. If you feel that there's sufficient information to consider the previous proposal through the budget process, then obviously from my perspective, that the timing of that works fine. If there's an expectation to incorporate a body of work for Council to consider the $2 pool proposal that was raised as part of budget process, then we would not be able to meet that time frame. What we can do, and I think I have spoken to Councillor Murphy in detail about this, and perhaps it's got lost in translation, but there are elements of the work that we were doing behind the scenes that could be expanded with this proposal. So the consideration of how we operate pools there is varied from how we do it today. I think I've had every second councillor that's got a pool in or near them been approached in the recent months about opening hours, entry fees, etc. So to try and formalise that process for councillors to make that decision is a body of work that happy to bring to the room, but to defer back if council feel that they have sufficient data to make that, information to make that decision about the motion that was raised, then happy to proceed as we are.
Councillor Heremeyer, did you have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just closing thoughts from me is that I think the current system where we're heading is great. The work's already getting done. Council officers are already doing it. We're going to talk about $2 pools during the budget. Whether it gets up or down, that's up for democracy. I think that this is wasting time right now when really the community expects us to not be in committee, to be out doing stuff. Let's vote on it. Let's get it out of the way and move on.
Councillor Murphy, I'll give you right of reply as you are the person who raised this general business item.
I'm just trying to work with the council officers to get the best outcome for our council pools, and I'll move the motion and then just see where my fellow councillors vote.
All right, so we have a motion on the board. I did see Councillor Wilcox. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I've had my hand up for a while. I know that we're sort of going around in circles. Councillor Jeremiah's report specifically was asking for a $2 pool entry fee. And I've always said that we needed to expand it. I've said it from the get-go as well, that it needs to go through budget so that we can investigate the whole structure of everything in this, because it's not just for a $2 pool entry fee, it should be to benefit the whole all of the residents in the city, to reduce the fees of everything. Now, you've just said Jacob's report is specifically for $2. So in that report, it will basically give us information on a $2 pool entry fee. It's not really going to delve into everything that's on that, but are you doing a body of work behind the scenes, which we've been speaking about, to incorporate all of this so that we can be informed going into budget in a service enhancement? So if the $2 pool entry fee doesn't get up, then we can also look at all of this, where it will include entry fees, opening hours, and all the rest of it. Is it working? Have you got something working side by side, or do you specifically want to bring all of this back to committee?
Thank you for the question, Councillor Wilcox. Through the chair, just to reiterate, the broader scope would not be available as part of the budget process, which is, I guess, the initial motion.
So how far away is that scope of work then?
Through the chair, it was scheduled for later this year, but we can certainly bring it back to mid-year, and the intent to bring it to the room with sufficient time to debate, consider, rewrite and implement anything that the council choose well before the summer period the next year, 24-25.
But that will again be outside of budget
Correct.
period, and then we'll be trying to adjust it on the fly and all the rest of it. So specifically this is to try and get this back into budget sequence.
Point of order through the chair. The manager has actually reiterated several times that he can't do it before the budget. I just think we're going in circles here. He's said it several times.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Bradley. Councillor Bannon, you had your hand up. Did you have anything to add? And then I'll close this off and we'll...
Yeah, just we're being reactive. We've had a hot summer, so people are asking for the pools a bit longer. It's like I haven't rang Brent once about mowing. Like, it's reactive. Like, I don't understand why we're pushing staff to get it done quicker. He's already said it's going to be done before the next summer. So it's just, I don't understand what the push is. And I don't think we should be pushing before the election either. Like, let him do his job. Don't push him into something harder. Don't be reactive on everything.
Okay, councillors, we have a general business motion on the board. I'll read it out. That in lieu of the previous council resolution dated 18th of October 2023, minute number 94/2023, which provide the council consider future options relating to pool entry pricing as part of the 2024-2025 budget process. A report be presented to a future City Lifestyle Committee meeting, providing an overall review of council's aquatic facilities, including but not limited to a review of pool general entry fees, opening hours and sessions, and management and operating models. Councillor Murphy has moved this general business item. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wilcox has seconded. Can I have a show of hands in support? That has not been carried. I'll go around the room to see how everyone voted. Mayor Power, how did you vote?
Abstain.
Councillor Bradley?
Abstain.
Councillor Lane?
Against, but I'd like to put up an amended motion to the one that's on the board, please.
Councillor Russell?
Abstain, and I'd like to just clarify that it's not that I am against what is on the board, it's just that I think that the process needs to be continued the way it was originally planned. Thank you.
Councillor Raven?
Abstain, providing a reason that the manager has indicated this can't be done by the 2024-25 budget process. I'd be supportive of a motion that gave him more time to do that and bring a report back to us before summer.
Councillor Fraser?
Against.
Councillor Jeremiah?
Abstain with the reason of it's already getting done.
Councillor Bannon?
Against.
Councillor Stemp?
I'm abstaining for the same reason, because I understand from the manager it's already underway, so I don't know why I need it.
Councillor Wilcox.
For.
Councillor Murphy is for because she moved the motion, and myself I am against for the same. Sorry,
Yeah.
Councillor Deputy Mayor Kerensky. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm going to abstain. I just think that making this decision during caretaker period is also a challenge at the moment, and I look forward to the opportunity to actually consider this properly at another future date. So abstain.
I'm actually against, so we'll leave it at that. That motion has been lost, but we did have Councillor Lane. You wanted to suggest an alternative motion?
I actually did, Mr Chair. Can you pull the motion back up, please, meeting officers? I would suggest that we remove line 1, line 2 and the first 2 words on line 3 and just ask that a report be presented to a future City Lifestyle Committee meeting providing an overall review of Council's aquatic facilities, including but not limited to a review of pool general entry fees, which is part of the budget process, opening hours, seasons, management and operating models. That means it doesn't need to comply with any budget restraints or timings, and the report still goes ahead. Being a person who has a pool in my area that is run by a private enterprise, this $2 fee is one thing, but this is something completely different and has significant impact. My pool is also the size of a postage stamp, so any changes to opening hours and, you know, trying to get more people in there will actually result in it looking like somewhere in Japan in a wave pool where their bodies are rubbing up against each other. And I think that we need to look at this report, and I'd like to move that motion. Thank you.
Okay, so Councillor Lane has proposed a new general business motion. Okay, and for those playing at home, I'm just going to quickly read it out. That a report be presented to a future City Lifestyle Committee meeting providing an overall review of city aquatic facilities, including but not limited to a review of the pool, general entry fees, opening hours, seasons, management, operating models. That has been seconded by Councillor Bradley. Sorry, Mayor Power, you had a question?
I wouldn't want you to rush into anything. Can't we debate this for a couple of hours? Only joking.
You're wasting time, Mr Mayor.
Mr Mayor would like to debate this for a couple of hours, but I think we'll move quite along. Can I see a show of hands in support of the new recommendation? Okay, I'm going to have to go around the room and count. Mr Mayor, how do you vote? For. Councillor Bradley?
For.
Councillor Lane?
For.
Councillor Russell?
Abstain for the same reason.
Deputy Mayor Kerensky? Deputy Mayor?
For.
Councillor Raven?
For.
Councillor Fraser?
Against.
Councillor Jeremiah?
Abstain. It's already getting done.
Councillor Bannon?
Against. I was going to give a reason for that one.
Councillor Stemp?
Abstaining for the same reason. I believe it's already being done.
Councillor Wilcox?
For.
Councillor Murphy?
For.
And I'm against. That is actually carried. No clapping. Meeting conduct, councillors. Back on track. Okay. Is there any further general business items? Councillor Fraser.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I promise I'll be quick. Can you pass on my sincere thanks to Brent, the Parks Manager, for listening to me and for getting the mowing done in certain parks that I nominated? And this is more in response to one of my school principals made a phone call to me and asked how the parks were going near her school. So Brent actually was able to get the crews out there the next day. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Would you like to reply?
Through you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I will pass that feedback on to the Parks Manager, but I do understand there is a long list of priorities across the city, and 21 more mowing staff have been put on recently. They did 170 extra hours over the weekend of overtime to try and catch up, and we know the grass is still growing. So thank all councillors here for your patience, and we will get to every park as soon as possible.
From my own experience in my own division, I know there's been quite a few residents have been wanting to ask their area councillors and council itself, when was the grass last cut and when will it be cut again? I just like everyone to understand, when we do that process, usually someone needs to run up, chase someone that's on a mower, who has to then jump off a mower, then has to just check their schedule when it was done and done before. And when you do that, that does kind of slow the process down. So I know it's great to hear when and where every park is being done, but understand, guys, they need to get out there and do it. Let's just let them do it and get it done. And hopefully we'll get through this season as soon as we possibly can. With that, would there be any further general business? Sorry, Councillor Murphy, I've noticed you've still got your hand up. Did you have a question or another general business item?
No, sorry.
Okay, councillors, are there any further general business for the Acting Director, Community and Lifestyle Manager, Miss Annette Turner? There being none, that concludes the agenda for today. I declare the City Lifestyle Committee meeting on the 6th of February 2024 concluded at 10:55. The City Governance Committee will begin in 10 minutes, which should be 11:05. Sorry. Thanks. Quick math.